in this valley. They came down by
Bills for public hearing today. House Bill 1260, House Bill 1407, House Bill 1406, and House Bill 1394. I want to particularly welcome people from the intellectual and developmental disabilities groups who are here for their advocacy day. Welcome to our committee. And let's get started with House Bill 1260 and the staff briefing. As I see our prime sponsor is welcome to join us in the front. O'Mara.
O'Mara Harrington, staff counsel to this committee. House Bill 1260 makes changes to several of Washington's cash assistance programs, specifically the Aged, Blind, or Disabled Assistance Program, the Pregnant Women Assistance Program, and the Essential Needs and Housing Program. So I'll just briefly touch on each. The Aged, Blind, or Disabled Program provides cash assistance to eligible low-income adults who are 65 or older, blind, or determined to meet federal SSI disability criteria. Persons may receive these benefits concurrently while pending application for federal SSI benefits. However, the monetary value of any benefit that's subsequently duplicated by the person's receipt of SSI for the same period is considered a debt and is subject to recovery by the state. The Pregnant Women Assistance Program provides cash assistance to pregnant individuals who are in need based on current income and resource standards for TANF, but are ineligible for TANF. And the Essential Needs and Housing Program provides funding for time-limited rent assistance, essential need items, and services connected to housing stability for persons who are eligible for Pregnant Women Assistance Program or the Aged, Blind, or Disabled Program, or who are incapacitated from gainful employment, and that will likely continue for at least 90 days. Additionally, statute dictates that a person must have countable income at or below $428 for a married couple or at or below $339 for a single individual. There are several policies that apply to all three of these programs. Among them are that a person is ineligible for benefits under any of these programs if they fail to participate in needed substance use disorder treatment unless good cause exists based on physical or mental condition that prevents participation or when appropriate treatment is not available. Also, persons receiving benefits through these programs must be assessed to determine if they would benefit from DSHS Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services, and if so, must participate to avoid termination of benefits. House Bill 1260 makes several changes to these programs. Effective October 1st of this year, the requirement for Aged, Blind, or Disabled Program recipients to repay the state for benefits received at the same time as SSI benefits were received is eliminated. Participation in vocational rehabilitation services for persons receiving cash assistance benefits is voluntary rather than required when assessed as beneficial. Income eligibility standards for the Essential Needs and Housing Program are placed within agency rules rather than statute. And the list of good cause reasons for failing to participate in substance use disorder treatment as a condition of eligibility for cash assistance benefits is made a non-exhaustive list. And with that, I will conclude my remarks.
Thanks, O'Mara. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, welcome to our prime sponsor, Representative Alvarado.
Thank you so much. And good afternoon, Chair Sen, Ranking Member Eslick, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Emily Alvarado in the 34th District, and it's a pleasure to see you 2 days in a row to talk about these really important issues. As you know, we all deserve healthy food, a chance to see a doctor when we're sick, and a safe place to live. But far too many Washingtonians are struggling to meet their basic needs. And that's especially true as the cost of rent is rising, the cost of food and other essentials is rising. And that's especially true for the people in most poverty in our state, including those who have a documented disability or incapacity and are unable to work. Aged, Blind, and Disabled is one of our most crucial cash assistance programs that provides a really modest monthly stipend to people who have work-limiting disabilities or are over the age of 65. People who qualify for ABD are extremely low income. 33% of folks are experiencing homelessness. Over half have a mental health disability. And for them and the 20,000 people on ABD, this cash assistance is a lifeline, and it's a bridge to federal disability benefits. But since the 1980s, we've imposed an untenable requirement on this program that makes recipients repay the state for the value of the ABD benefits when someone starts to receive SSI. I want to illustrate this policy. So someone qualifies for ABD, they receive $417 a month as an individual, and they get a referral to the Housing and Essential Needs program. Then they're able to get on to SSI, and they start receiving a payment of $900 a month. At that point, the person needs to pay back the state for the value of the ABD. In my district and in many communities around the state, $900 a month is insufficient to cover the costs of your basic needs. You cannot get rent and food and other basic needs on that resource. Ensuring that people achieve actual stability should be the goal of our benefit programs, not constantly paying for the impacts of people facing instability. We shouldn't fund our state's basic needs programs on the backs of the poorest people in our state. It's bad policy, and HB 1260 makes ABD more fair and accessible to those who need it. I really want to thank the Department of Social and Health Services. They have recommended this proposed change because it aligns with our broader state goals to advance racial equity and to reduce poverty. And I urge you to support this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions for the prime sponsor? Representative Eslick.
Thank you, Chair Sin. So this is very interesting. I have heard about it before, so I'm glad you brought it to our attention. How many actually did pay back? Do you have it? I don't know. Did anybody?
Good question. I don't know if staff has an answer to that, or I'd be happy to follow up.
I don't have that information. It's possible the department's here today and could answer. Otherwise, I can follow up.
Great question. Thank you. Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome. I'm a little uneasy with moving some of the standards around these programs from statute to rule. Generally, I'm uneasy with allowing agencies to rule make on essential elements that define a policy. Some of this bill would move some of these standards to rulemaking. Would you be open to an amendment that keeps them in statute rather than moving to rulemaking?
I appreciate that concern, and I'd love to talk further to the department and more with you offline. My understanding is it makes it more similar to other programs, the way that the standards are created, but happy to have that conversation.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we will move to public testimony, and Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have 11 testifiers today. If we can have Dan Wise and Justin Miller, both remote, come up. And then in the meantime, on deck, Tony Bowie, Bab Roberts, and Melanie Smith.
And as people are coming to the room and being called up, I just want to remind the audience and our viewers that some people are in person and some might be online. Regardless, please don't speak unless you're called upon by the chair. It goes for the testifiers as well as our committee members who all know the rules by now. If you are called up for testimony, on deck means you are about to be next. If you are in person, please come up to the dais. And if you're remote, please turn on your audio and your video and start when your name is called. And and please make sure that you say your name and organization before you begin. We will be using a timer. Green means you have time to speak. Yellow means you better wrap it up. And red means I'm about to say thank you very much. We will start with 2 minutes for testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dan, if you're on, please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Dan Wise, and I am the Deputy Director of Catholic Community Services of King County. I'm here speaking in support of House Bill 1260, which makes necessary changes to the state ABD program and the Housing and Essential Needs program. In King County, my organization currently helps over 2,500 disabled adults through the HEN program. We work with folks in deep poverty who have complex health issues and are facing a housing crisis. The proposed bill eliminates the requirement for folks on ABD to repay the state for the financial support they received while applying for SSI. That back pay received once awarded is typically less than 5 months of their SSI income. It's a few $1,000s. It is paid before the individual gets paid, so they do all pay it back. I've worked with many folks where their back pay was the most accumulated savings they had ever had access to in their lifetime. Keep in mind that once awarded SSI, folks typically have a monthly income less than $1,000. That's all the money they have to pay rent, buy clothes, maybe buy minutes for their phone. Everybody needs a financial safety net. And this bill allows people in deep poverty the ability to hold on to a very small savings account for emergencies. And I can tell you, folks have those emergencies. Thank you to the bill sponsors for your understanding this potential impact of this change. And I urge the committee members to support moving this bill out of committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. If we could have Tony Bowie, Bab Roberts, and Melanie Smith come up to the desk, please. And then on deck, we will have Gayan Mitchell, Kathleen Knutsen, and Liana Crescent.
Welcome. Thanks for being here, Babs.
All right, thank you, Chair Sen and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Tony Bowie. I'm the Assistant Secretary of Economic Services at DSHS. Today, we're here to talk about House Bill 1260. ESA is responsible for critical services and supports for our state's most vulnerable people, including those that are elderly or living with a work-limiting disability or incapacity, such as recipients of our age, blind, and disabled cash assistance programs and our housing and essential needs programs. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm requesting the committee support for House Bill 1260, which will alleviate poverty for those most in need of support. The bill promotes economic stability for those who are unable to work by eliminating the interim assistance repayment required by ABD recipients. Currently, ABD requires recipients who have a very high rate of homelessness and mental health disability to repay cash benefits received while awaiting approval from the federal supplemental security income known as SSI. For the record, Washingtonians receiving SSI are living below the federal poverty level. For 2023, the maximum monthly payment is $914. That's an annual income just under $11,000, equaling 75% of the federal poverty level. This amount does not meet the standard of living cost for a single individual anywhere in Washington state. Given these stark realities, Washington's garnishment of interim assistance results in a significant hardship for disabled individuals. This bill would end that practice, returning nearly $40 million per biennium to ABD recipients who transition to SSI. Again, I urge the committee support of HB 1260, helping combat poverty by returning resources to those in need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Sen, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Babs Roberts. I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of the Community Services Division, which has oversight for this program. In addition to the ABD repayment components of this bill, we'd also have this bill provide a technical fix to clarify and align referral processes in between our division, the Community Services Division, and the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. The bill also aligns the way in which ABD and HEN referral income limits are set with that of other cash assistance programs in the department. This would allow the department to update the income limits when authorized by an operating budget through rule making rather than requiring a statutory change in addition to the operating budget change. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of this bill. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Welcome, Melanie.
Good afternoon, Chair Sen, members of the committee. I'm Melanie Smith here representing the Seattle-King County Coalition on Homelessness, and we're here in strong support of House Bill 1260. As you heard from the department, we are so excited that they brought this decision package forward to remove this practice. This was a strong recommendation from the Poverty Reduction Work Group a few years ago, and we are excited to see it taken up. Most individuals living in this level of poverty are one emergency away from homelessness, and homelessness is extraordinarily expensive, not just for individuals individual in a community, but in your budget. And so this really offers an opportunity for you to stabilize those very at-risk individuals who are all disabled, who all have many of whom have some sort of underlying behavioral health condition, to give them the resources they need to stabilize themselves, to stabilize their families, and so that they can take care of those emergencies as they come along. I think this is an important racial equity piece. This was a longstanding policy that probably should have been fixed years ago, and now we have the opportunity to do so. So I want to thank the department. I want to thank the bill sponsor, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the panel? Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll ask the department the same question. Prime sponsor, why is making the income qualification, moving it to a rulemaking process more desirable than leaving it a statutory process?
Thank you, Representative. I don't know that it's more desirable. I know that it's more efficient. It would be faster. We won't make changes to any income limits without an operating budget authority. So an operating budget would have to pass with that policy in place to also require request legislation or a statutory change. Seems less efficient than just allowing the department to do it by rulemaking.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we can bring up Gian Mitchell, Kathleen Knutsen, and Liana Crescent, all three are remote. And on deck, we're going to have Donita Sparks, Sharon Murphy, and Eric Pinar. Gian, if you're on, please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Gian Mitchell, and I work for the Washington Housing Alliance Action Fund, and I'm from Spokane. I'm here to request that the legislature support HB 1260. Last year, I worked for a small law firm in Spokane that helped people apply for Social Security disability benefits, and I frequently served clients receiving ABD. One of our clients' experiences with ABD exemplifies the current issues with the program. She was fresh out of the hospital when she was finally awarded supplemental security income, and she called into the firm to get an explanation of why her award letter said she'd received such a small back payment. She had overdue bills to pay and had been counting on the full back payment because she'd been fighting for SSI for years. I had to explain to her that because of the old rule that dates back decades, that the state would automatically get the first cut of her back pay. They took a large portion of it. This woman was disabled, elderly, and extremely low income. She had debts to repay like medical bills and back rent. She didn't have any income while her Social Security disability claim was adjudicated, so ABD was a vital lifeline for her. But having to pay DSHS back was a serious hardship. Her story is not an anomaly. This year, the maximum amount a person can earn from SSI is only $914 a month, while average rent for a one-bedroom in Spokane is about $1,289 monthly. Please also consider that if these ABD clients were lucky enough to get HEN rental assistance payments, they also lose that at the same time as the state takes their back pay. Vulnerable folks like this need every dollar they can get just to survive, and I ask that you support them. Thank you.
Thank you. And if there isn't room, or if anyone using a wheelchair wants to come up further, we cleared some chairs up in the front, just so you know too. Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kathleen, if you're on, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Knutsen. I'm the program manager for the HEN program in Kitsap and Thurston counties, and I'm here in support of House Bill 1260. We know with the COLA in 2023, SSI recipients now receive a minimum award of $914 a month. Most people on ABD have been on the program, sometimes for years, waiting for a decision. And that period, they often accrue debts just trying to survive. They count on the back pay to settle those debts and prepare for life on a limited income. Repaying ABD takes the one opportunity they have to catch up on bills, find an inexpensive vehicle, set aside funds for a safety net, or move where they have a support system. With the Bridge program, a pilot administered by Commerce in 2020, it allowed assistance to continue for a period of time while easing the person into managing their own lives. Our success rate for housing retention went up substantially. The ability to extend support for a period of time beyond HEN gave them stability and an opportunity to work with the case manager to find a housing situation that was affordable. Often prior to that program, people would flounder and fail, due in part to transitioning from their rent being covered to suddenly managing everything on their own. That bridge allowed us to not only support those in transition from HEN to SSI, but to assist those already on SSI and houseless. who otherwise would have no way to get out of homelessness. I ask that you support this bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair.
Liana, if you're on, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Sen and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Lana Cresson here on behalf of the Statewide Poverty Action Network in full support of House Bill 1260. My thanks to Representative Alvarado for sponsoring this bill, Chair Sen for hearing it, and the department for requesting it. ABD, or Age Blind Disabled, is the cash assistance program for adults with disabilities without dependents who are likely to qualify for federal Social Security income. This type of assistance has changed names and forms over the years, from GIU, GIX to Disability Lifeline, and finally to ABD and HEN in 2011. The $417 per month that this provides to single adults who are eligible is a lifeline and helps pay for the bare essentials: medicine, clothes, bus fare. When I explain to people that the state then requires these adults with disabilities to repay the state when they transfer to their fixed Social Security income, they're typically appalled, and rightfully so. This is only amplified when they learn that last year, 30% of recipients were also experiencing homelessness. Last year, the average length of stay on ABD for a recipient waiting for SSI was over 24 months, and the average grant amount was $185. This means the state could be asking people to pay back over $4,500 when they transfer. This money could be life-changing, used to create savings for emergencies or pay a deposit and move-in costs for an apartment. The most marginalized and vulnerable populations in our state should not carry the steep burden, especially when it's the state's intent to offer help. This fix is long overdue. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear my testimony, and I ask you to please support House Bill 1260.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our last panel will include Donita Sparks and Eric Pinar. Donita, if you're on.
I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Donetta Sparks, and I'm here in support of Bill 1260. I apologize, I haven't testified before. And the reason I agreed to testify is when I decided to get disability and I had to get a lawyer to assist me, I requested help from the state, and they allowed that in the amount of $199 per month. And at that point, they allowed me to collect that money. And then at the end of the 18 months when my disability was approved, they had me pay back that amount. So the problem with the situation is if we are on limited income and we're not allowed to basically have any extra income while we're waiting for our disability, when we do get the first part of our settlement off the top, the money goes back to the state. And out of my total settlement, my first part, I believe the state collected almost $4,000, and they collected more than what the lawyer even charged. So the reason I believe that this bill should pass is because out of all of the times that I've worked in over 30 years, I never applied for disability, L&I, unemployment. And when I did, requesting help came at a high cost. And so I apologize, I'm kind of nervous. So the reason that I wanted to support this is because when you have a limited income and then you receive your payment and you have no income at all, you can't afford to pay rent or lights, anything at all. And then the first part of your money goes to pay back the state with what they consider to be help. So I believe that with this bill passing, other people in the future will be able to not have to basically pay back that money. I apologize, I'm losing my voice. Thank you.
Annette, you did great. Thank you for bringing your lived experience to this policy and this committee today. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Eric, if you're on, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss this bill. My name is Eric Pinar. I'm an attorney, and I focus my practice solely on Social Security disability cases. I am in support of House Bill 1250. The reason I think this bill would be so helpful is that with SSI claimants at the federal level, there are income restrictions on these benefits. If a person individually has more than $2,000 of assets, they do not qualify for ongoing SSI benefits. This raises to $3,000 for a couple. This makes it difficult to save for a first and last month's rent because, again, if that was more than $2,000 of savings, they aren't eligible for benefits that following month. When a person receives back, well, if I could start over, when a person wins a claim for disability benefits under the SSI program, because of the long waits involved, there is generally a amount of back benefits they can receive in lump sum payments. These lump sum payments do not have the same income restrictions for 9 months. In that 9-month period, they can have more than $2,000 of assets. This gives them a unique and limited opportunity to set up housing for their future and for the time to come. Because again, here they can save that first and last month's rent. When ABD is required to be paid back during this period, that limits that amount of money that they would have to be able to apply to that housing. And I think that with House Bill 1260, or I believe it is, that would again give these individuals more money to set up for their future and avoid homelessness that would otherwise result. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Eric. Mr. Vice Chair, are there others wishing to testify or signed in pro or con?
No other testifiers, Madam Chair.
Thank you. At that, we will close the hearing on House Bill 1260 and move to House